What's his pride more than... Yeah. Um.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
You keep me in your orbit. Well, I know I'm a hard one to please. Give it too much importance. My love will have your fault on your knees. I tell him this too often. Know that that's a bark up my tree. Just for me to fall and leave. I'd rather just watch you smoke and drink. You're steering clear of any headaches to start. And if we're being honest, I'd rather your body than half of your heart. All jealous written comments that come when you're letting them feelings that I don't want. I never let them know too much. Hey, get it too emotional. Yeah, I'm better off without him. I'm better off being a wild one.
I shouldn't...
On the road a lot, had to keep it 1,000. So that I'm better off not being around you. Go on and face it, I'll never be ready for you. Ready for you. I swear my love is a curse, make you head over shoes. Head over shoes. Let's put them topics to bed and go fuck on the roof. Just to say that we did. You keep insisting I listen to your proposition. I dismiss them on no offense, yeah. Steering clear of any headaches to start. And if we're being honest, I'd rather your body than half of your heart. Or jealous written comments that come when you're letting them feelings that I don't want. I never let them know too much. Hey, get into emotional, yeah. I'm better off without him. I'm better off being a wild one. On the road a lot, had to keep it 1,000. So that I'm better off not being around you. I'm better off without him. I'm better off being a wild one. On the road a lot, had to keep it 1,000. So that I'm better off not being around you.
Ah, sorry, I'm dying. Let me. Okay. Hi, hello, hi, welcome. I know it's late and it's super late actually. I want to start streaming at like 8 8 like 8:30. And honestly, the thing is like streaming for YouTube. Every time I stream on YouTube, I'm like, you have to make a thumbnail, and I know I don't have to, but it's like making thumbnails is fun. So I make them, and then they take me like an hour because I have to come up with the title, the idea, and the concept, and then execute it, and then all of that takes me like an hour. So yeah, but it's okay. Like I love it. Um, and I don't know if it helps the stream or not, but also it like kind of saves me time when having to like, cause like the bot automatically publish itself on to YouTube. I don't know if people actually get it on their feed or if it actually like moves across YouTube, but at least I feel like accomplished in like, okay, there's a video out. I have to pump more content. But but tonight I just wanted to read uh Bury the Corpse of Colonialism, the feminist conference of 1949, if I'm not mistaken. Wait. The Revolutionary Feminist Conference of 1949. Yes, by Elisabeth Armstrong. The title, the full title is in the description, which I love. I love that I have a description now. Oh my god, I am like a professional YouTuber and shit. But yeah. Other than that, today I went to buy a suitcase, not a suitcase, backpack, not backpack. Like I know it's not luggage, because luggage is like more of a like conceptual word. I guess suitcase is the word. Yeah, a suitcase. I guess oh, it says that luggage is also. I guess luggage is the section. But no, yeah, I want to buy a suitcase for my trip. And so yeah. And there I also bought this I don't know if there's like a difference with headphones and earphones. Yeah, I think this is an earphone, because headphone is like your head. No, but it also says headset. I know I'm not showing anything, but no, okay, yeah. This is our earphone and headphone is the big one. But yeah, my headphones don't work very well. So I just bought earphones and I can just connect them, and I know, and I have like two pairs of Bluetooth earphones, but sometimes I need a cord like plug thingy, and I don't have any, so I need one. And sometimes my the ones that so I have ones that are the ones that I use the most, which are the non noise canceling ones, and then I have noise canceling ones that I rarely use because they came with my phone, and I feel like I will only use them on the plane probably, and that's it. Then I will probably never use them again ever, but I don't know. But even then, so there's that. Um, but yeah, I still needed them, and they are useful for stream. So yeah. And oh, but the black ones, the ones that I use often that are not, the lighting is weird. Wait, that are not noise canceling, they tend to run out of battery pretty quickly. Oh yeah, that is better. Oh wow. So that's why I was like, okay, I will just buy corded ones. But yeah. So yeah, I want to read today or tonight. So that's what we're doing. We're reading Bury the Corpus of Colonialism, the Revolutionary Feminist Conference of 1949, which is a book I've been talking about since we watched the Breakthrough News. I'm pretty sure it's the Socialist Program, the segment where they showed it and they interviewed Elisabeth Armstrong. If I'm not mistaken, Brian Becker interviewed her and she was talking about this book, and I was like, oh my god, yes. But yeah. So today we're just reading the introduction because it's just like 15, 16 pages, and it's pretty late, but yeah. So yeah. But I did want to read the rest of the content, the table of contents, because look, it is super interesting. I have read the introduction like, this is probably like the 5th time I'm reading the introduction. I'm not gonna lie. I've tried to read this book plenty of times, and I just fall asleep every time because I am bad at reading. But it is truly interesting. But yeah. So, yeah. And so reading it on stream is like going to push me to actually read it. So here we are. But yeah. We're into the introduction, then we're reading the 1949 Asian Women's Conference in Beijing, or in the People's Republic of China. Then Journey to the Conference, An Anatomy of Revolutionary Women's Praxis to Save the World, Conclusion, then Acknowledgements, Notes, and Sources. So I think it is... I like how it's divided because it's pretty succinct and kind of like direct, and it is not that long of a book. It is like, I would say, yeah, around like 150 pages in total, so it is actually pretty doable. So yeah, there are the illustration credits, which I'm glad there are illustrations and photographs. But yeah. So yeah. Also, I'm like dying of, my throat is like dying. So there's that also. Fun. I love it. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah. Introduction. Celestine Makuku within Owesin Coulibaly. It wasn't as if she was afraid of crowds. Celestine Owesin Coulibaly, familiarly known as Makuku, had spoken to mixed gatherings far from home all her adult life. She knocked on the doors of people she'd never met before, in neighborhoods that didn't know her or her family. She was lucky. She grew up with the knowledge she could lead. maybe even should lead when necessary. Her father led the Sindhu canton in Upper Volta. She had an education, a good one, and grew fluent in French of schooling, great books, and well-honed essays. She traveled the region. She worked as a school teacher. By 1949, when she addressed the Asian Women's Conference in Beijing, she was a storied organizer of anti-imperialist women. In 1949, she led the movement of the thousands of women who stormed the prison of Grand Bassam, holding over 2,000 men from her political party, the African Democratic Assembly, RDA. The men did not believe in the need for this movement and doubted our ability, she said at the founding conference of the women's organization of RDA on November 6, 1949. Her attendance at the Asian Women's Conference might seem surprising since it was led by and held for Asian women. But the conference was anti-imperialist and fostered solidarity with other movements against colonial occupation. It was not simply a gathering for women from one colonized continent. It welcomed anti-imperialist women from around the world. Coulibaly's words nurtured the seeds of the African and Asian women's solidarity movement that emerged from this early conference hosted by Women's International Democratic Federation, WIDF, and the All China Democratic Women's Federation. Well before the Bandung Conference in 1955, the Asian Women's Conference developed an inside-outside political praxis for women's anti-imperialism. The 1949 Asian Women's Conference consolidated a militant two-part strategy for women's internationalism in the fight against fascism. On the outside of imperial centers, women joined the military resistance against colonial occupation. On the inside of imperialist ruling nations, women fought a war that refused to accept their nation's belligerents abroad. In both locations of struggle, in occupied and occupying countries, this strategy relied upon reaching large numbers of women from rural locales alongside cities and towns to join the movement. Thus, the conference resolutions in 1949 drafted two parts to this strategy. One for women from colonized and recently independent countries, and one for women from imperialist nations. In Asia, Africa, and parts of Latin America and the Caribbean, women fought imperialism and feudalism with renewed unity. Hi Dorian, welcome. Thank you for being here. Hi, how are you doing? Sorry, I'm going to start that again. In Asia, Africa, and parts of Latin America and the Caribbean, women fought imperialism and feudalism with renewed unity. To do so, they should organize the masses of women, help to educate them, and defend their basic rights. For women in imperialist countries, their activism should be rooted in an ethical and personal refusal to be accomplices in murder. Do not permit our sons to kill each other. Stop colonial wars. Insist that your governments recall the troops from Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Korea. This linked strategy mobilized rather than ignored or universalized the differences in women's activism around the world. Internationalist women shared commitments to anti-fascism, anti-white supremacy, and anti-colonialism, but their conditions of struggle were specific. This strategy dispensed with allies in the struggle to create accomplices in the fight against fascism, racism, colonialism, and patriarchy. Solidarity was not an invocation of shared intent, empathy, or ethics. It was a battle cry enacted. start over. Oh my god, I'm very well, thank you. How are you? I was just to take a shower, but it can wait. Oh my god. My laptop to the bathroom. Look, I have taken my laptop to the bathroom plenty of times to shower. But yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm already in page 3, but if you want, I can restart. Because, as I mentioned before, this is like the 5th time that I'm reading the introduction. Because every time I have started this book, I finish an introduction, I get to part to like either I stop in the introduction and then I pick the book up like months later, and then I'm like, oh, I forgot the introduction, so I restart the introduction, or I leave it in like in the middle of chapter 1, and then I don't pick it up later, and I don't pick it up soon enough, and when I pick it up later, I'm like, oh, I forgot, and then start with introduction again. So I've read the introduction. This is probably the 5th or 6th time that I'm reading the introduction, so I genuinely don't have a problem restarting. I know the introduction like the back of my hand. But yeah, and so that's why I wanted to read on stream, to like push myself to read it, to read this book fully, because I haven't been able to read it. But yeah, I am. I can catch up on that later. Yeah, because I really like the like brief biography of Celestine Coulibaly, because it shows how like women have always been part of the revolutionary movement, and they have been leading them, and that their work has always been important. Like, not that there was it was never important, but it's like, wow, this is the life of a woman who was always militant, was always in political spaces, and was a leader of those political spaces, and did action that showed men that doubted them, oh wow, they did it, you know. And it's like, it's such a good intro. But yeah. I do it sometimes, yeah. So yeah. Okay. And I love this part because they are like acknowledging how the contradictions in imperialist and imperialized countries are different, and that's why there should be a strategy, there should be different strategies that end up like, that have to be like coordinated, you know what I mean? Because like there needs to be a coordination from outside and inside, but that doesn't mean that it has to be the same plan to be used. But like, if there is no coordination, like nothing can be accomplished, because you need agents in the imperialist and the imperialized countries, right? And it's very interesting how it finishes with this phrase: solidarity was not an evocation of shared intent, empathy, or ethics. It was a battle cry enacted. Like, it was action. It was actual war. I mean, like war in the very like metaphorical sense of the word, but like, we see how like the bourgeoisie, the global bourgeoisie, have these conferences, right? And how they have the world leaders talking and saying, yeah, we're going to fight for climate change and fight against climate change and global warming. And it's just bullshit, because they don't actually do anything. But like when communists get together, I have to say, when communist women, because like Lord fucking knows there have been some the international there have been some gatherings of communists where things were not being done, but this shows like when communist women get together, like they actually struggle and develop theory and develop actual actions, you know, for international like action, you know. But yeah, different contradictions in imperialist versus imperialized countries is something that a lot of Western Marxists need to figure out. Yeah, and that's why it's so frustrating because like these women knew and understood this over 50 years ago, and it's like, of course, these women, these people, at the end of the day, understood it because they were struggling. They were in the actual movement. They actually cared because that was their actual fucking lives and the lives of their families and their peers, you know. And it's like, of course, like, and knew we are all comrades here. Like, we need to help each other, and there was no like egos, you know. So, yeah. The battle cry part reminds me of something Stalin wrote. The formation of a common revolutionary front is impossible unless the proletariat of the oppressor nations renders direct and determined support to the liberation movement of the oppressed peoples against the imperialism of its own country. Yeah, for no nation can be free if it oppresses the other nations. And it's interesting because like this is something that Grom always mentioned to me, and I thought it was kind of weird. Well, not only Grom, but like a lot of people in imperialized countries, is like they never fail to mention how, yeah, without imperialism, we're going to lose some luxuries. And it's like, why does that even have to be mentioned? You know what I mean? Like, oh, boo-hoo, you're not going to have like jet that you don't even use. You're going to have like less candy, I guess. Like, do you know what I mean? Because like in the grand scheme of things, the things that imperialist countries are going to lose with the end of imperialism are not that meaningful. You know what I mean? Like under socialism, the bourgeoisie is oppressed, and that oppression looks like limiting the amount of the absurd amount of money that they can make, taxing them more, making sure that they do not do illegal shit, which is like, oh no, I won't be able to make $100 billion. I can only make $50 billion. And oh no, I will be taxed 10% of what I earn. Oh, and it's like, you earn like $1 million a month. Your lifestyle is like already absurd. You having to pay more taxes is not going to impact your life in any meaningful way. You know, like, and it's so like kind of, I wouldn't say out of touch, but it becomes kind of absurd for people in imperialist countries to keep mentioning that And sorry I mentioned Grom, but it's like something that Grom first mentioned to me, but since then I have heard many other people in imperialist countries say that, but I'm like, why do you always say that? Like, I'm like, I think like stopping the genocide of people in imperialized countries should be like more important. I don't know. Like, and the thing is, like, we can still acknowledge that uh the bourgeoisie is going to probably make those inconveniences be like affect the working class more than the bourgeoisie in those countries, but like that is something that the proletariat of the imperialized countries have to deal with. It is not the fault of imperialized countries. It's something that it's a contradiction that they should already know that will happen, because it's not that it's not happening. It's already happening, but it's just going to be strengthened, and so they should know to be ready for that. Like, that's why you should already be developing the dual power structure so that the bourgeoisie cannot like punish the proletariat in that way and will be affected. You know what I mean? Like, we know like what thing when we like, if you know the material conditions of your country enough, you should be able to pretty much predict to the T what is going to happen and how the bourgeoisie is going to react, because you also have like a historical record of what things have been done. And so like, it's not like people in imperialist countries cannot get ready for that if that was the case to happen in the first place, you know, especially if we have these types of conference, which I know there haven't been, but still, you know, whatever. But yeah, like, I know it's complex and like we're in different point of history, and like there's not that much like international support at a grassroots level or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like there are so many things that can be taken into account, and I'm like, why are you just like, why are you in the imperial core, like whining about the liberation of imperialized countries, you know? But yeah. What the proletariat is going to lose is minimal, low-priced, out-of-season produce, cheap chocolate. The ruling class will lose big time. Yeah, and even then, right? Like, even when or if, but when realistically, the bourgeoisie wants to push those like inconveniences to the working class, like realistically they will still get the brunt of the inconvenience, you know, because it's like, oh, your chocolates will raise prices, and it's like, yeah, but you are like not being able to make absurd amounts of money due to oil extraction in imperialized countries, you know, like. You know what I mean? Like, and for example, I'm thinking, oh, they might raise the prices in like essential products or essential foods, but it's like, if they do that, revolution happens. Like, there are just some things that the government knows they cannot do, you know? And like, the more they want to punish the proletariat or the working class, they know that they will be angrier and more like this has to stop. But yeah, like, but yeah, but also it's like it's interesting 'cause, like, I feel like the U.S. has like managed to push that limit the most, and they have only been able to do that because of the conditioning, the constant conditioning and propaganda to the US people. But it's like, I feel like we're kind of seeing it live right now, like people kind of waking up and being like, wait, we kind of low-key hiking need to overthrow the government and establish a proletarian government. You know what I mean? But also, it's like there needs to be education in order for for action to happen, or like needed action to happen. You know? But yeah, like, it's like complex and stuff. But it's also like it goes. That's why I think the U.S. has these like very specific material conditions, because the U.S. also has like the CIA and the FBI who have like managed to destroy any revolutionary potential, and so I feel like I feel like if there is no solid party, solid socialist, Marxist, scientific socialist, colonialist, whatever you want to call it, party, by the time an insurrection happens in the US, because it's going to happen, there might be just like it's like, I don't know, I feel like there might be like a military coup. Because like if an insurrection happens, then there's going to be a void of power. And I'm like, okay, but who is going to fill in that power, in that position of power? And that's when the vanguard is supposed to come in. But I feel like and like, for example, historically, when that has happened in Latin America, because it has happened, um, like the military tends to take over. Like a military person tends to take over. But I don't know if that would happen in the US. Maybe Taylor Swift could take over, but I don't think she would want to. I know it's silly, but also like, I'm like, I'm not joking when I say that people would want someone, and in that conversation, Taylor Swift would be a realistic name to be thrown in the bowl of names. Like, I also see people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, like famous big names, you know, like I feel like Beyonce could be one, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't know. I was thinking of Mr. Beast, and I'm scared to even mention this possibility, but again, I'm like, which people have enough reach and are enough known that they could realistically get political power in a power void. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, even like the Kardashians. Though I don't think they would be interested in that kind of like political power, but I don't know. I'm like it's going to be someone rich. That's the thing. But I don't know. I mean, it could also be like I want to say it could be like Bernie AOC, but at the same time, I feel like they have leaked the boot of the Democratic Party enough to for the people not to truly trust them. But I don't know. Oprah is a good Oprah. Yeah, I mean, I even can see like Obama, which would be like kind of counterproductive, but I feel like most people in the US still see Obama as a good president, which is sad because I don't feel like enough people are enough radicalized to see Obama as a bad president or as just another US president. Do you know what I mean? But yeah. Also, hi Rob and Blind, welcome. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Zuckerberg has aspirations, right? And I'm like, and like the only reason I haven't mentioned Bill Gates is because he has actively talked about not wanting to be a politician. So yeah, just the Clintons again. Okay. Do you think it's a way of acknowledging their own country's imperialism rather than being sad about the loss? Or does it come across as being sad about the loss? Oh no, they're sad about the loss. Yeah, it's like if they were acknowledging their own country's imperialism, that wouldn't even be like a talking point, in my opinion. You know, like, or that wouldn't be like on something that I repeatedly hear. So yeah, because if they were more focused on their own country's imperialism, I feel like there would be more anger and eagerness to stop that imperialism than to like complain about what they might lose. Do you know what I mean? So, but again, that's just like kind of like my opinion. But also, I'm never wrong. But also, it's just my opinion, and I could be wrong. But I'm never wrong. Just kidding, but still. It will heighten the contradiction in imperialist country. Yeah. I assume a right-wing populist, overt classist fascist movement would fill the power vacuum. Power vacuum. That's what I was thinking. Not power void. The power void still, I feel like, works, but power vacuum is better. In the absence of the vanguard. That's also what I was thinking. Like, but that's the thing. It's like, I feel like Trump is kind of playing that currently. And so by the time an insurrection happens in the US, people would have already learned that pseudo populist right-winger type outsider that is still a politician, it's not going to be the answer. But I don't know. Also, can someone explain to me why was Reagan voted for a second term? Did he not destroy the US enough during his first term? Or am I just like... And also, is Reagan the reason everyone did drugs in the 80s? Oh, my eye is itching. I hate myself. Sorry. But Reagan was so charismatic. Interesting. But yeah. But a military coup is an interesting scenario that could be possible. That's the thing. I don't think it's like impossible. But I just like... I guess I just don't have that type of analysis in regards to the US military, because I don't know how they exist as a political entity, since I see the US military as very much just an extension of the political powers instead of like their own political entity. Which is how they more or less exist in Latin American countries. Again, still beholden by the government, but yeah. So I feel like Silver could be a good person to ask about that contradiction. Not contradiction. That like that military analysis, that military political analysis. So yeah. But yeah, hi Rob. Because classical fascism traffics in pseudo-revolution, which people will want. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I was, and that's the thing. Like when I was starting to make the talking about the possible power vacuum, I was thinking, I mean, like easily a fascist can come in, like but I feel like fascism happens still within the system working, and so an insurrection would be kind of like a pause of the system. But that's another thing, like I feel like US people have been like conditioned into capitalism enough to kind of continuing capitalism even after an insurrection. But at the same time, it's kind of like counterproductive. Just like in an insurrection, in an actual fucking insurrection, like the economy would like pause. So I don't know how they would like genuinely continue the economy, but at the same time, like they will think that, oh yeah, the economy still goes on because like the magic hand of the market. But yeah, I feel like we're reaching the limit of my sociological and historical analysis. I'm lost. Like I am truly reaching the limit of my political knowledge with this conversation. But yeah. And he had a fantastic marketing. The level of marketing involved in modern presidential campaigns began with Reagan. Oh, interesting. How to see him as a political entity either. Yeah. So yeah. Without tons of work from socialist movement, US people would absolutely continue capitalism without giving it a second thought. Second thought. Fuck JT. Just kidding. Uh, at most, normies here want a more protectionist capitalism, more economic nationalism, but all it does is reset the clock. But a decade ago, I feel like I don't even know how to put it. Um, ah, the U.S. historically, the U.S. managed to become what it is because of their long period of isolationism. Because geographically speaking, the US is meant to be an isolationist country, other than literally Canada and Mexico. Sorry. And the other day I was watching a podcast talking about World War II, and basically how with World War II the US was like, oh, we can make money. Sorry, we're not reading this right now. I was watching a podcast that was talking about World War II. And in World War II, the US learned that, oh, we can make money out of war. I don't know why I'm like coughing right now, but still, I'm not gonna lie. And so, since World War II, the US has been like addicted to war. They have been high on war. And so, that is ultimately going to be the demise of the US. Because war can be so sustainable. And it's interesting because like we have reached a point now where the US has thank you. Has learned that they cannot rely on direct war, but they have to do proxy wars in order for US people to not like lose it, basically. But because of the development of technology and media, social media, like the access to information, learning about what is going on internationally has become the norm, basically. And I feel like Israel, or rather the US's support of Israel as an entity, has made people realize, like a lot of people realize, oh, this is a continuation of all the wars that the US has done. And it's interesting because like this is why people are kind of focusing on like people in mainstream media are kind of framing Israel, the Palestinian genocide, and all of this as like a recent event, or like in the last 20 years or whatever. And it's like, no, girl, this has been like, this is a 76-year issue. And we can even go back before Israel, before World War II, before World War One, to the inception of the US, and point out, yeah, this was the problem. Colonialism was the problem. And because like the US doesn't want people to go back, they're kind of like, okay, you can talk about Israel, but keep it in the now. I don't even know what I was going with this. Oh yeah, thanks to media, like people are starting to understand like that the US is basically using proxy wars, right, to advance their imperialism, their colonialism. And because of wokeness, to put it in a way, people are kind of realizing, oh, wars are like bad. And it's interesting because like when we contrast the reaction of the Ukraine situation and the Palestine situation, Ukraine was a good move because they have historically conditioned people to hate Russia in the US, whilst despite the conditioning of Islamophobia and anti-Western Asian hate or anti-Western Asian sentiment in peoples, the Islamophobia of it all had just started, like truly being conditioned or tried to be propagandized since 9/11. So we are with generations that were kind of never touched by that kind of propaganda, or if they were touched by that propaganda, it was still like fought against in the media by like, oh, but you shouldn't be racist, you shouldn't be Islamophobic, you shouldn't be this, you shouldn't be that. So it's like that kind of like 9/11 Islamophobic propaganda has always been like fighting against that media, that anti-Islamophobic media, for the younger generations that are now, in one way or another, for better or for worse, leading the anti-imperialist agitation, or at the very least the anti-Israel, anti-genocide, anti-Palestinian genocide agitation movement, etc. You know, I feel like I've been like talking and I have been forgetting my point, but know that everything that I have said was for a reason. But yeah, they had to rely on whistleblowers before. Yeah, and that's another thing, right? I mean, oh my god, it's like I feel like we're right now at a point in history where there are being so where people are being presented with contradictions to their fucking face in so many ways that it's like they don't know what to do, and they don't know what to do because of the lack of education or the lack of revolutionary education, and it feels like kind of like everyone's screaming because it's like how do you grapple with the fact that you existing in the US in one way or another perpetuates that, or at least you in general, like you as a white settler existing in the US, perpetuating the existence of the US, are actually perpetuating that imperialism that you are seeing is killing Palestinian people. You know? I will go back to this bond and be like, what the fuck was I talking about? Because I know I was trying to make a point and I completely forgot it. But I hope some of what I just said makes any ounce of sense. But yeah. Also, hi Corinne, welcome. My god. You are who I think you are, right? Like, you are my Corey. Even though you obviously are your own person and I don't own you, but like, you are who I think you are, right? Also, I completely forgot to write you. I completely forgot to write you. Cause I've truly been busy all day. I think I had lunch and I watched an episode of a thing and then I had to go out again, and so I completely forgot to write you. But yeah. All the colonizing states don't want the crime of colonialism to be punishable because they'll have to face the punishment. Yeah, I mean, even then, right? Like, it's not even about the punishment. Because, realistically speaking, there won't be any punishment. The punishment will be give back the land to indigenous people, and indigenous people are going to have the land, and they're going to be like, I mean, you still need to live, right? Let's try tomorrow. Okay, yay. And white settlers are going to, like, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of white settlers are going to go back to Europe on their own, and the others are going to just stay, and indigenous people are going to live with them, co-live with them, and yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, but the thing is, like, white people, settlers, think that they will be punished, that the punishment is going to look like colonialism, but onto them. They think that they will be genocided. That's what they think, and that is not how it's going to happen. But that is what they are afraid of, even though indigenous people, black people, like oppressed peoples have continuously said that they don't want to do that. But yeah, I would say instead of oppressed, I guess colonized peoples. But yeah. Oh my god. But yeah. Ah. Uh, I feel like my organs are like my lungs are itching, and I'm like I want to like open my chest and be like, oh. But yeah. So yeah. Projection, literally. I mean, yeah, literally. Also, oh, I have to put like low latency. I don't like streaming on YouTube because I have to check low latency every time I go live. Whereas with Twitch, if I mark low latency, it would be automatic for all the streams. But yeah. But yeah. But yeah, it's like it's the projection, it's the conditioning of the a punitivistic mindset. Ugh, I enjoy connecting everything together, but yeah. Okay, let's continue reading. Conference organizers from the Women's International Democratic Federation invited women from around the world who shared their politics and organizing strategies to build the largest possible women's movement. The popular classes of women, agricultural workers, and farmers, as well as wage workers in the informal sectors of town and cities, joined together to fight colonial occupation. On the inside of colonial powers, women sought to grind the war machine to a halt by refusing to allow family members to enlist or permit ships to load armaments, and soldiers bound for counterinsurgency warfare in the colonies. Oh wow. Like, this is why there needs to be international coordination of these efforts, because if one side doesn't know what the other side is doing, as in like if the let's say that the imperialized countries don't know that in the imperialist countries the proletariat, workers, revolutionary people, etc., like the proletariat is going to like halt, is going to like try to sabotage imperialism, then they are not going to be able to properly like calculate what to do or how to do it, etc., etc. You know, like it is just way more efficient and it makes more sense because it's going to be way more impactful. Or at least that's what I'm thinking right now, but yeah. On the outside of imperial centers, women took up arms, built fortifications, passed intelligence, hit insurgents, doctored the wounded, harvested the crops, and fed the front lines, all to strengthen the fight against occupation. Together they sought to bury colonialism. Celestine Owesin Coulibaly joined this gathering at the critical moment for her own liberation struggle from French occupation. Daniel Hossein Coulibaly, her husband, was a leader of his political party, the African Democratic Assembly, and they agreed that enough was enough. When she moved south of her home, she moved to the political center, not of Upper Volta, but one of several centers of Western Africa, that is, the enforced French-speaking territories of Western Africa. There were other centers, other cities that hosted important meetings for their movement, like Abidjan, like Bamako, like Conakry, like Dakar. The fluid coalition of their political formation both recognized French colonial borders and marked those borders as arbitrary. And this is very important because this is what materialism is acknowledging the reality and the systems that made that reality possible in the first place. Because yeah, we can recognize that, like, are there borders? Yes, there are borders. Should there be borders? No. But why are there borders? Because of colonialism. And so at the end of the day, those borders are arbitrary. You know? But we cannot say that the borders are arbitrary if we don't recognize that there are borders in the first place. They question the fiction of even natural borders. Sometimes a river border is more about the river than about the differences between peoples on each side of that river. I love that. Wars were the borders that a cartographer drew in negotiation with other imperial map makers. The straight lines underscored their own understanding of that territory as a theft not from the land's inhabitants, but from another European tyrant. These borders dismissed the questions that mattered. Where did languages border each other? Where were there distinct cultural practices with an old yet ever-changing syncretism of overlapping traditions? These maps that named Upper Volta or Ivory Coast as sharply distinct heralded the lines of independence before the people who lived there had decided if they agreed. And this is such a good point because, yeah, when a country becomes independent from their colonizer power, why should they still stick to the same colonizer arbitrary borders that the colonizers like forced onto them? Do you know what I mean? It allowed another set of borders to emerge, or at least it held a place for more integral ordering of space. But how easy it was for an anti-colonial independence movement to become a nationalist one. Not easy in practice, of building common terms of policy, language, and history, but easy in rhetoric, easy to invoke as a goal standing in for freedom and self-determination. And see, like, this is why colonized indigenous peoples are the ones who have to be leading these revolutionary struggles, because they understand what needs to be done. Like, they understand the rhetoric that they have to use for people to believe them, to hear them, to understand them, and to be on their side, because at the end of the day, they are on their side. You know? They are on the side of the people. Koulibaly honored that promise of borders not yet known, of invaders not yet ready to leave, but already being shown the exit. When she moved south of the coastal cities of Ivory Coast from Upper Volta, she didn't stay at the level of invocation. Hers was not, strictly speaking, a nation-building project. It was a movement for powers taken by the people. When she moved to Abidjan, she went to the markets. That's where the women were. In these markets, French essay writing was not her most powerful tool. Her voice, alongside her willingness to listen to all that the market women knew and told her, enabled her gift for shaping a collective force that already existed into a political one. Anti-colonialism meant that market women had to listen to rural women. The products of subsistence farming, done almost exclusively by women, were an integral part of what market women saw. If the collective within the market sphere could extend consciously to include the rural lives of women, then anti colonialism had a network, a supply chain that could break the rough, dangerously aged bones of colonial wealth extraction. This is what we are talking about when saying that we need to know the material conditions of our countries, of our realities. We need to know the people. Because how the fuck can you save the people? How the fuck can you help the people if you don't know them? If you don't know their needs? If you don't know their realities? It could end the arbitrary and exorbitant taxation demanded so that even the smallest peasant landholder needed cash. The enforced unpaid labor for the colonizers that reaped children, women, and men from their own grueling work to survive. The practice of filling the most burdened land with crops grown strictly because they would be purchased with European backed cash. And it could destroy the most devastating of all these policies: the export of these mass produced food crops far from the people who grew them, far from the people who deserve their nutrients and calories. In Western Africa, each locality remained a locality. Of course, it did. The roads and train tracks, so efficient for carting away the bounty, often had little to do with the roads and paths traveled for commerce and trade, let alone the extended visits for generational ceremonies of celebration and burial. Colonialism sought Colonialism sought replicability of wealth extraction, of systems of control, of enforced obedience to unilateral demands. Resistance movements sought the power of their masses, of land, of people, of languages, of cultures and creativity. Their movements sought national independence against the borders themselves, borders that were not simply arbitrary but also violent, since they tore histories, language, cultures, and families apart with a line in the cartographer's notebook. Koulibaly knew the larger strategy of her movement's anti-colonialism. She stayed firmly in the masses and networks of her place, but sought to inspire them to the larger purpose of throwing the occupiers out. So, when she flew to Beijing, the new capital of the People's Republic of China, in 1949, it is hard to imagine her frightened. That brittle, wintry place welcomed her. Many women from her movement wanted to go in her stead. She was chosen to represent all of them, not just the 10,000 women organized in Greater Abidjan, but hundreds of local groups that refused the same colonial occupation, the same colonial robbery. It is easier to imagine how she drew on her family's heritage, on the dignity of her upbringing, on knowing the value of her place. She packed her clothing, not the French codified uniforms of her schoolgirl youth, but the West African fabrics from her organizing market women, among farming women, among women of the towns. Sorry, I'm like kind of sick, but yeah, I'm doing my best. She wrapped her head using the full intricacy of folds to signify the importance of the occasion, as well as her own importance. She probably guessed here colonialism taught its lessons to her advantage, that she would have to single-handedly make her dress legible in all of its significations, independence of his independence of history, willingness to lead, the wealth of her past traditions, knowledge, and its visionary possibilities for her future. This is a photograph, a place where we think about humanity Hall, Asian Women's Conference, Beijing, December 1949, photo of courtesy of Sophia Smith Archives in the Smith College. When she stood up in front of hundreds of people in the bitter cold of the People's Great Hall in China, with steaming breath and chafed hands, she used French to speak of what they shared. She reminded the delegates of how they had all lived under the boot that sought to scrape away their value, but not because of any inferiority. Quite the opposite. European colonizers bullied their way into unjust overlord status because that value, which they sought to steal, was so rich, because that value could line their pockets. I am an African woman. I bring greetings from the black women of Ivory Coast, and at the same time I bring their fears, hatred, their living conditions. Although we are of different origins, different languages, we suffer similarly, and we have the same sense of righteousness. This is a story about women like Celestine Makuku Wesin Coulibaly. This is a story about a theory of anti-colonialism and internationalism that women built. This is a story about a strategy to build socialism, a strategy with women at its center, not on its peripheries. This is a story about one conference held by Asian women in concert with the pro-socialist women of the Women's International Democratic Federation that dared to imagine an African, Asian, Caribbean, and Latin American future without imperialism of any kind. This is a story about one conference held by revolutionary women in 1949 that rippled outward to challenge warmongering as the only way of life. This anti-imperialist internationalism sought peace, democracy, and women's rights. Peace included the willingness to fight for a just peace. Democracy sought power to the people over monopolies and the aristocracy. Women's rights sought the rights to live one's full humanity. The Asian Women's Conference was held over 1 week in December 1949. It consolidated an anti-imperialist women's movement, one embedded in the communist and leftist traditions of organizing and Marxist-Leninist theory. Its praxis was hard won by Asian and African women who organized agricultural workers and farmers, as well as women working in the informal economy for piece rates and minimal wages. This was a mass movement of women rooted in the countryside rather than one fanning out from metropolitan centers. The Asian Women's Conference sought a stage and a megaphone for anti-colonial leaders of communist parties and leftist formations in Asia, but also Africa, the Caribbean, and Latin America. Yet, its traces have been covered over in the archives and our shared political memory on the left. This story reconstructs an event that enacted as truth global leadership by anti-colonial women, working to shape a better future in the ashes of empire's two world wars. For the legacy of our own present, it recovers the genealogy for feminist internationalism as a praxis, a theory of women's organizing against imperialism. And that's just the first part of the introduction. But holy shit, this is so good. And it is truly bothersome that this history is not known, because it's so poignant and relevant to the struggles of right now, and how people are seeking that unity and that solidarity and that internationalism. And there have been different ways in which certain internationalisms have been occurring, but not yet in a explicitly Marxist Leninist, explicitly socialist, explicitly revolutionary union. And I always see how there's this vague unity, this vague internationalism when people talk about the fight against climate change, the fight against global warming, and I always feel sad because it's not just like a superficial kind of internationalism, but people are truly longing for palpable, tangible action to happen internationally. But because people don't have that theory, that revolutionary education, that socialist knowledge, it's not like nothing can be done, but people are then guided into like the wrong solutions or imperfect, incomplete solutions. And this is why I think it's so important that people are able to not just educate themselves, but get educated. When I go through welcome back, Dorian. When I go through drama, to put it in a way, with other fellow leftist communists, I just see a lack of leftist theory understanding. I see a lack of the connection that needs to be made in these people's heads about how capitalism, imperialism, colonialism are all encompassing systems that affect us to our core. They don't just affect us monetarily or economically or materially. Materially in the more superficial way of in the more superficial sense of the word. But they affect us psychologically, emotionally, psychically. Like, they affect our way of existing and interacting with the world. And people not understanding that emotional, psychological behavior is connected to those systems. Those systems who affect poor people, who affect women, who affect that affect racialized people, who affect colonized countries, who affect global south countries in general, shows like that the lack of people not understanding that shows how much education needs to happen because there has been so much propaganda. There has been so much conditioning and perpetuation of these genocidal systems that people don't realize that at the end of the day, you are not just metaphorically killing me or in other ways literally perpetuating the killing of other peoples around the world, but you are also killing yourself. You are also killing yourself by buying into that system. Especially because you are buying into that system without your own knowledge. And you are trying to fight it without properly understanding that you are still in it by the actions and behaviors that you are performing. I think performing is a good word. But yeah, like from a very early age, I saw the pain in the world. And that's what ultimately made me a communist. Or that's how I ultimately that's ultimately why I have aligned with communism or with a communist ideology, theory, etc. Because like I see people get angry. I see men let's keep it real here. I think men, most of them white, get angry at me but I just see the pain through that anger and it saddens me because it's not like I feel like I am failing, because it's not like I have this burden of having to liberate everyone. It's like it's realizing, wow, the movement is truly in a very infantile moment. Because even the people who claim to be communists, even the people who claim to be decolonial, even the people who claim to know the theory or whatever, cannot break away from that conditioning. And they don't see that they are killing themselves. And they would rather kill like they would rather kill me than face the music, I guess. And I'm just like, isn't this why we're communists? Isn't this why we're communists? Isn't like the point to stop the pain? Then if you're hurting, like why spread that pain onto others? And it's interesting because I know someone could argue that I inflicted pain to my oppressors by calling them out. But what I inflicted to them is not pain. They just felt the guilt of my pain. They just felt bad because they knew that they knew of the pain that they had caused me. And again, it goes back to it's always projection. So yeah. Okay. I think I think we can watch Lee Chi. Oh, like here, but I'm not sure. But I don't want to watch it. So guilt is uncomfortable as fuck. Some people can handle being uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, and this goes back to like the conversation about whiteness and like it's interesting because like I've noticed that like white people are uncomfortable with silence, are uncomfortable with thinking, and it's like, and that's why they kind of have to like be loud and continuously talking, even if it's nonsense, because they cannot handle the silence. But yeah, uses the phrase redistribution of pain. Interesting. But yeah, it's like white people are basically Godzilla in a way. They're kind of screaming and destroying everything because of the pain, because they feel alone, which is interesting because like they feel alone because of the alienation that they created by colonialism and capitalism. But it's like, yeah, girl, must be sad. must must be sad being alone and desolated. Yeah. Oh, wonder who caused all of that. But yeah. Uh, and the Sufi poet Rumi wrote that your wound is where the light enters you. Oh, that's so true. In other words, sometimes your settler pain is trying to teach you something. Girl, my whiteness feels like Godzilla for fuck's sake. I guess it's not Godzilla. I guess I was thinking. I guess a better metaphor would have been like Frankenstein. I was just thinking of like someone walking and destroying everything. But yeah, I guess Frankenstein is a better allegory. But yeah, okay. Okay, we can watch Lisichi for now. Yeah. Rumi Sufi poetry says, girl, true. Girl, you're just wrong. uh, but yeah, but talking about me saying girl, I want to watch the podcast that I watched talking about World War II because I thought it was very interesting. And I almost want to watch it with Larry, or at least someone who knows more about like World War II history than I do. Because I thought like his explanation of World War II was actually pretty solid, despite not being like a communist or anything. But yeah, I gotta go sleep. Catch you tomorrow. I love you. I love you too, Green. Thank you so much for coming by. By the way, if you didn't know, Corinne Corey X is y'all are really weird. But yeah. Am I doxing you? I don't think so, but yeah. Okay. I'll be right back. I will like blow my nose and stuff.
So, what do you do? What do I do? Well, I do a lot of things. I try to eat healthy. I visit.
I'm so sorry, Chad. I'm so sorry you had to watch that. Warm salt water. No, I'm not going to. Though I should do the gargles. I know. I just brought like warm water. Warm water to drink, but because I feel like I think I was coughing because my water was pretty cold, but yeah. Oh, because like that creates more air. I wonder. Oh, sorry. I was reading your comment, Dorian, about like why she flattens them and curls them and flattens them again. That creates air in between that puts air in between the layers. And like gives like a different texture. So yeah. But yeah. Okay. What else am I doing? Oh yeah, also by the way, like the stream. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, I feel like we can watch. You know what? I might watch I saw the TV Glow tomorrow morning. Which I know it's like a weird. Is that why the pastry was so thin and flaky? Yeah. Yeah, literally. I mean, the flakiness was more. I mean, it's like how like the flakiness is uh is more of on the structure of the dough, but it's the. I guess it helps the flakiness. Yeah, it does help the flakiness. Because if it was only one without the reflattening, it would be more. How do I call it? More like sturdy, I guess. But yeah, in something development of gluten and yeah. Look, I'm like I know a little bit. Look, I wanted to be a chef. Uh and that included pastry chef. And so I know bits and stuff of this kind of information, and I love the science of it all and stuff, but also I don't know it. I don't know it, so yeah, I'm just giving you like the little information that I have that I know about of this, but yeah. It's alright. Okay. I want to be a chef too, but I know basically nothing about baking and pastry. Interesting. No, yeah, it's like I want it to be. It's weird because I wanted to study like gastronomy, so I wanted to be a chef, but my favorite thing to do was like pastries or patisseries. So now that I think about it, it kind of didn't make sense, but at the same time, it made sense in my mind. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I wanted to be a very because everything that any because when I approach things, I always want to approach them in a very holistic way, and so I feel like studying to be a chef is like more well-rounded. Though I know that in order to be a patissier, uh, like it is like a lot, and it is concentrated because it's a lot. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, let's continue reading. Sorry. Okay, now I may die. Whatever. Archives, memories, and propaganda. Is the sound of the background music good? I hope it is. But yeah. Archives, memories, and propaganda. In her diary about the Asian Women's Conference, Betty Millard, a Communist Party member from the United States, jotted notes about the film shot during the 7 days of the conference. On December 17th, 1949, she described a chilly film taken to replace those burned up. A chilly film taken to replace those burnt up. Will falsify history considerably, will convey impressions the Presidium listened to speakers, which was seldom the case, will also seem the very gay conference, since we found our own histrionics amusing. I know she was talking about happy, but also think about like a conference of only women and she's choosing to say gay. Girl. Two films were created about the conference, one by the Chinese and one by the Russians. However, the footage taken over the 6 days of the conference burned. I blame the US. The day after the conference ended, it was hastily reshot. Jira Bandyopadhyay Jira Bandyopadhyay, a key organizer of the conference from the Paris-based central office of the Women's International Democratic Federation, provided a more light-hearted assessment of the two films. In a letter to Millard, she described watching the Russian version in Budapest, Hungary, almost a year after the conference. Yesterday, I went to a movie to find you in various moods, mostly laughing. Gay. It was the Soviet version of the Asian Women's Conference. On the whole, it was better than the Chinese version, and the particular attraction was the Iranian and Indian delegates shouting "Ban Sui," which I recognized very much. The celluloid recording the conference burned before the conference ended. Its reconstruction was immediate and on site, but it was a reconstruction of the event. These records were made by Chinese and Russian filmmakers to portray what happened and who was there. In this educational sense, they are propaganda films that sought to inform and inspire their audience. Neither film is Neither film is easily accessible through digitalization or even by mentioning the film archives of the former Soviet Union or in China. In my research, this story began with a conundrum. Until 1951, WIDF records showed that the conference happened, but it was rarely mentioned in WIDF bulletins or pamphlets after this date. Additionally, the usual archives that held substantial records about communist women's movements had no records about the content of the AWC. Memoirs, pamphlets, newspaper articles, and diaries held in these archives described the conference, but none held the official conference documents themselves. The record of discussion among delegates, of participant reports, or, most importantly to me, the resolutions or appeals. In part, the lacunae. What does this word mean?
Lacuna.
Lacuna? An unfilled space or interval, a gap. Lacunae? Oh, look at me. You know what this is? This is this is lesbian language. I'm so sorry. Chica Brown. Oh my god. In part, the lacunae. In part, the gap stemmed from the lack of propaganda about the conference. The WIDF never published a transcript of the conference discussions and reports, as it did for its 1945 founding conference, the 1948 Second Congress of Women, the 1953 Third Congress of Women. Neither did WIDF publish a descriptive brochure to widely share an overview of what happened, as they did for the mothers conference held in Lausanne in 1955. The records of the AWC turned out to be hiding, perhaps in plain sight, in the Swedish labor movement archives in Huddinge, Sweden. Where's sure when I need them? Where the collection was aptly named after the WIDF affiliated national organization, the Left Federation of Swedish Women. Wow. White people be wildin'. The conference delegates' speeches were published in the information bulletin, proof that they were disseminated among members of the WIDF. Even more intriguing then is why even the rich holdings of other WIDF materials in the Atria Institute on Gender Equality and Women's History, the Sophia Smith Archives at Smith College, and the International Institute of Social History did not hold copies of the newsletter in their collections from this period. In the Huttinge archives, records of each day's events were carefully typed on WIDF letterhead. They were probably sent to Andrea Adrien. This is such a good name. Andrea Adrien. Like, their parents were like, yeah, Andrea. That's so close to me. Oh my god, really? Interesting. Fun. An important executive council member and later vice president of WIDF who didn't attend the AWC in person. While her personal archives are held in Stockholm, these official records of the AWC proceedings, resolutions, and bulletins were considered organizational records and thus stored in the Huttinge archive. Interesting. The absence of records about the AWC outcomes in more well-known archival records of WIDF have shaped how I read these resolutions. Their very hiddenness became a methodological question about propaganda, since these ongoing decisions of not sharing the conference discussions, appeals, and resolutions shape their meaning. Conference resolutions are often the most public aspect of political meetings like the AWC. In this case, they were the most obscure. Okay. So like, you're telling me that for some reason, I mean, I'm kind of joking here because I know the real reason that they were hidden, and I know that they will talk about this more in depth in the book, but let me still make the joke, okay? So you're telling me that like these white women from white countries were like hiding the resolutions from the Asian Women's Conference, and despite its importance and vitality, they were like, no, this doesn't matter. Shady indeed, to say the least. So yeah. I mean, I know there are other reasons, but I just think it's funny. In this case, they were the most obscure. Marion Marion Ramelson, the delegate from Great Britain, did not mention any of the appeals or resolutions in her book about the conference. Okay, now that is something I will say. Of course, the British woman did not talk about anything about the conference in her book. right? Like, hello, hello. But yeah. Neither did Betty Millard in her Daily Worker articles, nor in her book that described the speeches from the conference. Okay, I was giving the benefit of the doubt to these white women, but now you're giving me kind of like the worst examples. And I'm like, maybe I was cooking. And I don't want to be cooking because I want to believe in our comrades. But what do you mean these two white women were not talking about it? Should we think of two different names? Nah, just one, it's fine. Literally. It's like 20 minutes from Stockholm by car. Oh, interesting. Wrote a book about the conference and didn't mention anything about what they talked about on the conference. No, it was just like a book. Like like she happened to write a book that mentioned the conference. Like she wrote a book, and in that book she happened to mention the conference, but she didn't go too in depth about the conference. But it's like, of course, you're deciding not to go too in depth about the conference, you know, the conference of Asian women. But yeah, the 1949 Asian Women's Conference resolutions, appeals, and discussions were not disseminated widely. That is, they did not become propaganda or information put in the hands of as many women as possible. This omission of information is particularly strange since delegates at the Asian Women's Conference and members of the WIDF as a whole sought to shape a women's movement that spanned the world. Instead, the political theories from women's internationalist activism developed at the AWC were communicated to audiences in a couple of different shorthands. Okay, so like, it is interesting. I'm not gonna lie, it is interesting that they had already developed other ways to propagandize information, but they just so happen to decide to not use those true and trusted ways to disseminate the information of this particular conference. Look, I'm trying so hard to give these white women the benefit of the doubt. But Elisabeth is like, I mean, Daily Worker was a CPUSA newspaper shut down in 1958. Oh, interesting. It's about the conference. No, but yeah. In a couple different shorthands. One invoked motherhood and peace as the alternatives to the unending acquisitive wars of empire. The language of what I call revolutionary motherhood invoked women as the reproducers not only of people but of the cultural fabric at large and its ethical commitments to peace. Revolutionary motherhood, in these appeals, sought a global peace that would keep sons and husbands out of the war machine. When these men were conscripted by an imperialist state, revolutionary motherhood intervened to blockade the loading of trains and ships with their materials of war. The other shorthand for women's anti-imperialism in WIDF's public broadsheets appealed more generally to women's solidarity against colonialism as an unjust system, rather than detailing the strategic logic of differential solidarity necessitated by imperialism. So, so all the nuance that was developed in the conference, white women were like, that's not necessary. Uh, I am literally going to cry right now. Because it's like, fuck. For action to happen, people need consciousness. People need the theory. People need to understand what they are doing and why they are doing it. And I get that it is easier to just say things in a more simple way. But the nuance is what makes the revolutionary theory. And it's like, I'm exhausted because this shit still happens today. This shit still happens today, and I'm like, so much for fucking solidarity, bro. And again, it's like, I don't want to be. I'm trying to be as good faith as possible, and so I'm going with the narrative that yeah, it's easier to disseminate the information in this way, so that people just get like the bullet point version, you know, like this, do this, but it's like. We need to give people education and consciousness, because when they gain that consciousness, the education will be easier, and then you won't even have to tell them what to do because they will understand what to do. It's like, it's like, if they don't know why they should tell their sons and husbands not to go to war, for example, if they don't know why they are doing it, they are going to have a much harder and more difficult time convincing them, because they don't understand what angle they have to take, because they don't believe it themselves. Whereas if they truly understand why we're doing it, why this affects other women, why this affects other people in the world, and what those people at the other side of the world are doing to fight the same fight as you, they're going to be a million times more motivated. They're going to want to think of ways of how to properly approach their loved ones. Like, because they're conscious. They're not they are not being forced to make that decision. They are being incentivized to make that decision, and so they are going to make that decision to tell their loved ones, and they are going to be motivated because they have a purpose, they have a reason. I just want to give people hugs. But yeah, I'm sorry. Revolutionary motherhood against war and women's solidarity against colonial oppression were the public face for the inside-outside political praxis solidified at the AWC. However, AWC resolutions and appeals were actively hidden by lead organizers, most of whom were members of communist parties. I am literally going to travel back in time and scream at these people. And I purposely say people because I know that at least once there was a woman that came back to her imperialist country from the AWC and was telling the men in her communist party, we should print this, we should do this, we should disseminate this information properly. And a man was like, no. I am literally going to cry. It's like, bro, you were so close. You were so fucking close. You were like right there in the finish line. And a man. I'm creating an entire film right now in my head of like this white woman from the CPUSA, like radicalizing herself, right? And then becoming part of the CPUSA and discovering feminism or something, or discovering feminism and becoming part of the CPUSA. And then she gets the chance to go to this women's conference in China who just had the revolution. And she's like, whoa, these are such important conversations happening. And then she like purposely writes everything down in her notepad or notebook or whatever. And then goes back to the US. And she's like to the leader or whatever, hey, this is important. And the man like burning all her notes in front of her. So dramatic. I mean, I know obviously that didn't happen, but it could have easily happened, okay? As a man, I can confirm we are in fact the worst. Oh my god. Well, to be fair, I am talking about cishet white men, but yeah, as a man adjacent person, yeah, I feel that. Uh, I mean, in all fairness, based on what we've read already, it's not like the men were ruining everything, you know, like some like white women will still white women their white womenness, you know. But yeah, obviously it did happen. Oh my god, imagine if like I make that the film like hyper realistic up until the point where she gets back from China and is talking to like her to a printing person or whatever, and then all of a sudden I take full creative liberties and start just shitting on men. All of a sudden, yeah, all the men started burning all the notes from the conference, and then they started burning all the women also. I mean, might as well. Just kidding. Kidding. I'm drunk. Okay. I'm not drunk. I'm just kidding. But whatever. I'm not drunk, YouTube. I would never be. But yeah. However, AWC resolutions and appeal were actively hidden by lead organizers, most of whom were members of communist parties. Like this is what is killing me. By lead organizers, and I'm like, you are talking about men, right? You are talking about men. I know you're talking about men. I know you're talking about men. But yeah. And you can intersperse clips of Nazis throwing books and huge bombs. I mean, name a white man that wasn't a Nazi. Exactly. You can. I feel like I'm high. And this is why I don't stream serious content when I stream this late at night. But why weren't these public declarations to anti-imperialist women spread by the WIDF information network amongst their members? Well, probably because it says IDF in the name. Sorry, it's the only thing I've been thinking about whenever I say WIDF. It's the IDF, but women. It's not. I'm so sorry. Okay. When you hear inflammatory statements like that, it's important to remember that Stalin wasn't white. Yes. I mean, yeah, literally. That's why he did nothing wrong. And people don't believe it. I mean, that's why people hate Stalin. Because they are racist. And it's like, I'm laughing, but like, it's literally true. It's like literally true. As a brown person, you of course know people are racist, but also as a very white, head cis passing guy, the way racist feel they can just tell me all their unhinged thoughts never ceases to amaze me. Oh my god, Rodifi. Damn. Been watching Colonialism again. Literally. Uh, it is interesting because like I experienced that Radifi with men telling me the most like misogynistic, sexist things, and I never know how to react. Because it's like, I feel like I'm perceived as a man enough so that they can tell me that. But I am. But it's like, if I call them out, I kind of become a target. And so I put myself in danger. And it's like. And so most times I tend to just like run. I go like, oh yeah, dude, totally. Why are you running? I'm just going to the bathroom. But yeah. Like half of my friends are POC for the first start. Yeah, that's like, yeah, but yeah. It's interesting because like my only friends from high school that I still have are white too, but all the rest of friends that I have made from like university and film school are brown. Interesting. Sorry, I don't know why I was saying this out loud. Okay. Why were the conference appeals against colonialism and their theories for a better feminist internationalist practice hidden even decades after the conference? It's the white people, girl. It's the white people. You know what's going to be painful about this book? I feel like because it was written by a white woman, she's not going to be like, I'm not going to say that she's not going to be aware about the racism, but she's probably not going to be like as aware of the racism, if you know what I mean. But yeah. But I don't know. But yeah. In 1949, anti-colonial pro-socialist women gave collective voice to a method of global organizing that demanded accountability from all women of the world. That praxis did not entirely disappear for at least 2 decades, if not longer, since it demanded women's accountability for colonialism and imperialism in global women's movement settings. Well, now we know why the information wasn't disseminated, because it required white people taking accountability. I'm the token white guy in my friend group. Oh my god, I stand. Yet, its explicit address to women from colonized countries, women of imperialist countries, and sometimes also women from state socialist countries was largely absent in the WIDF's own widely disseminated literature after the Asian Women's Conference ended, with the exception of a special issue about the conference and one additional issue of their newsletter, Information Bulletin. As a strategy, it defined WIDF's approach to women's anti-colonialism, one that fought for peace and explained how peace could require military struggles against violent enemies of nations' right to self-determination. Okay. Okay, hey. Keeping this information is good, okay? Like, but also this is why the bar is in hell. Oh, you mean you're telling me that they did what they did a part of what they were supposed to do in the first place? Got it. I'm queer, so they tolerate me. Oh my god, really? As propaganda, it was largely erased from the public record. The loss of materials and centralized archives for their conference suggests that the erasure of a differential strategy to organize women of the world against imperialism was an active choice rather than an oversight. Instead, for public consumption, the WIDF's own publications chose a different mode of address, as seen in the glossy magazine Women of the Whole World, that in 1951 replaced the more rough and ready reports in the Information Bulletin. So you're telling me it was sexism all along? Even worse, it was the internalized sexism of it all along? Chat. We have 3 more pages. And I am dying reading this. Dying as in I am so angry. I am so angry. During the 1950s, WIDF publications emphasized women's political subjectivity through revolutionary maternalism and their rights to economic and political independence. Okay. For public consumption, they supported another kind of unity, a simpler one that invoked political unity among women as mothers and workers and citizens striving for a peaceful world. Wow, they really just removed all the anti-imperialism from it all. They literally just removed all the anti-imperialism. And made it liberal. Oh, you're meaning to tell me that the CPUSA is liberal? Oh my god, I'm so shocked. I'm so shocked. Oh my god. Don't you see my shocked face? I am so shocked. This is when I could drag people right now, but I won't. As soon as I saw the title of the stream, I knew I was gonna get angry. Oh my god. I mean, yeah, 'cause because it was the day women defeated colonialism, and then you go, then why is colonialism still a thing? Oh well, because white women. Mm. Oh, thank you for um linking the book in the Lisichi video, Dorian. But also we have the PDF file of the we have the PDF file of the book in resources. I think it's pinned. No, it's not pinned. Um, I will pin it actually because I always go back to it. But yeah, Western communists strikes again, literally. And I'm like, why? I mean, not even why, because it's like, of course, but it's like, anything to look there. Thank you. Yeah, the PDF of this book. Yeah, I'm reading the PDF right now. That Catalepsy shared. I don't know if the link that you shared, Dorian, is of the PDF or it's just to buy it. But either way, like, I mean, to be fair, I would love to buy this book. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't even want to know how much the shipping would cost. Yeah. Okay. Also, sorry. I don't know why. Okay, sorry. It's not the full text, just the book seller. Oh, nice. I mean, either way, it's like support, buy books, but also information should be free. But also, it's like we need to buy these books so that the people who are making these books know that there's a public that needs these books, and so that they can be incentivized to keep creating and helping the creation of these books. So if you can buy the book, I highly recommend you to buy the book. But if you cannot buy the book, but also, but yeah, but also it's like on top, like farther, like beyond the capitalist market of it all. It's like if I could, I would give money to to Elisabeth Armstrong, who wrote this book, because it's like just because I know it took her a lot of fucking work to make this book. So like, yeah, and if it's not money, I would just like hug her and like start crying, be like, you did so much for this book, and I appreciate it because this is very important history. But yeah. He just writes like there is no tomorrow. That is true. That is true. I mean, to be fair, you still need someone to publish you, but also I feel like at this point he like people are going to publish him regardless. So but yeah. Warren. Oh no. Elisabeth Armstrong. That's the author of the book. But yeah. There's something to display in a bookcase. Literally. I want to have like. Okay, so like my dream is to have a house/apartment. House or apartment. It doesn't matter. I want to have a living room that has like coffee table books, and my coffee table books would be Bury the Corpse of Colonialism, either All About Love, or Everyone Has to Be a Feminist by Bell Hooks. The book about film by Kim Il Sung, because and something about like either a compilation of works about Stalin or of works of Stalin, or Khrushchev Light. Wait, I have it here. I need to tell you the entire title, because the entire title is like a million words. Khrushchev lied, the evidence that every revelation of Stalin's and various crimes in Nikita Khrushchev's infamous secret speech to the 20th Party Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union on... The way the name doesn't fucking fit in the display, I'm like, this is so deranged. I have to open the book to tell you the entire name. Where is it? It has to be here. Okay. Khrushchev lied, the evidence that every revelation of Stalin's and various crimes in Nikita Khrushchev's infamous secret speech to the 20th Party Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union of February 25th, 1956 is probably false. Now that's a fucking title. Grover Furr was that bitch who was like, yes, the title of my book is going to have 100 words. So what? And the book agent was like, yeah, yeah, we can totally do that. And Grover Furr was like, yeah, of course you're going to do that. It's my fucking book, okay? And it's for Stalin. So yeah. that really tell you what the book is about. Yeah. I mean, the worst part is that like he has an I have another book of his that is like, oh, okay, this is the book that I'm going to have in my coffee table. Stalin, waiting for the truth, exposing the falsehoods in Stephen Kotkin's Stalin, waiting for Hitler, 1929 to 1941. I love people who love Stalin. I love people who love Stalin almost more than I love Stalin himself. Because it's like, if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't. And you get it. But yeah. That's the full title, yes. I like book titles that really tell you what the book is about. The cover for it on the archive, yeah, okay. The Asian Women's Conference strategy was a differential one that addressed women where they stood in order to better address the contradictions of imperialism. Women from colonizing countries had a different activist role than women from occupied countries, but they worked towards common goals: peace, women's rights, and an end to imperialism. Right? Remember when imperialism was something you cared about? Perhaps the blunt tools of propaganda were not up to the task, and the easier unity based on women's common social roles alongside shared political aspirations would have to do. However, the years after 1949 However, the years after the 1949 conference suggest another story, one that's a little more complicated, about how the WIDF's praxis took wings. I am kind of scared of what that means. The traces of this practice may be hard to find in the archives, but they galvanized a sweeping range of struggles for radical women's activism in the 1950s, particularly visible during the global campaign against war crimes perpetuated by the United States forces during the Korean War. By the next international WIDF conference, held in Copenhagen in 1953, WIDF had grown tremendously. In 5 years, over 66 countries from around the world had joined the organization. Yet, somehow, the story of the Asian Women's Conference disappeared from the WIDF's own record of its activism, and as a result from the archives. Archives are regularly called for the story they tell. Archives are a kind of propaganda in that they advocate in favor of a particular argument by the records they hold, and, as Anjali Arondekar persuasively argues, by what is left out. Okay, why is Elisabeth eating? Why is Elisabeth like calling all the white women from 1949 out? But yeah, the title Grover for yes. Literally. That hot pick of Stalin from his juice though, that's all I'm saying. Look, Stalin never stopped being hot. That's all I'm saying. The biggest frame beside the book, yeah. Oh, yeah. Archives are never innocent. Oh my god. Okay, I am. No comment. I was going to say something very inappropriate. As propaganda, the archive's silence says something like this: the 1949 Asian Women's Conference is not an important conference. The AWC did not accomplish anything of record. Look elsewhere. Look at the 1949 Budapest Conference. Look at the 1953 Copenhagen Conference to understand the thinking within the WIDF at the time. Yet, the mobilization of the anti-imperialist strategies developed at the AWC powerfully shaped at the I'm drunk. We are going to finish this introduction even if it takes me 20 hours, okay? Yet, the mobilization of the anti-imperialist strategies developed at the AWC powerfully shaped the campaign against the Korean War that began in June 1950 from the Save Our Sons campaigns to the WIDF delegation's brave fact-finding report, We Accuse, first requested by the Korean Democratic Women's League. The two-part strategy that took women's differential relationship to imperialism and the importance given to leadership by women from colonialized countries drew on the AWC's lessons. They shaped the campaign against the Korean War for its 3 years, 1950 to 1953, as well as other WIDF campaigns in this decade, including their support for Mau Mau movement, for Kenyan independence, and their fight against the brutal past laws that cemented formal apartheid in South Africa. Left feminism, particularly a communist left feminism for the Third World, currently has no archive, no finding aid. Pivotal actors like Kai Chang from the PRC, who joined the Communist Party of China in 1923, Jira Bandyopadhyay of India, who had fought against colonialism since she was 13, Giselle I'm sorry. Giselle Rabasehala of Madagascar, who co-founded the Communist Congress Party of Independence of Madagascar in 1948, and Celestine Within Coulibaly, are almost unknown internationally. Intentionally also. To delve into the archives of India, Morocco, Algeria, or Lebanon gives more detail of these national anti-colonial women's movements. However, all of these archival collections are structured through an active resistance to telling this story of Marxist feminism through anti-colonial internationalism. Solidarity among colonized women produced this anti-imperialist internationalism, and its theory depended upon the shared lessons of organizing rural women who fought patriarchy embedded in the feudal colonial capitalist relations that oppressed them. These archival occlusions are instances of anti-communism, where leftist women from the Third World may have actions, even hold a gun to their oppressors, but not thought, nor strategy, nor any systemic demands for women of the world. Francisca Dehaene locates the Cold War historiography in Europe and the United States as the primary silencing mechanism that has erased communist and socialist women from the historical record of women's transitional movements in the 20th century. The historiographic occlusion of women across the occupied world is compounded by adding racism to the Cold War lens and reveals an anti-communist historiography at work. Anti-communism has stolen this history of women's internationalism. We have lost the stories of women, even those like Coulibaly, who were not members of a communist party. Activists like Coulibaly were not politicized by World War II itself, since resistance to colonial occupation is as old as colonialism. Girl. This is such a good fucking line. Since resistance to colonial occupation is as old as colonialism. Oh! I'm literally going to cry. I literally have chills. Because people think of colonization and colonialism as relics from the past. As, oh, that happened so long ago. Oh, it doesn't matter anymore. Oh my god. Oh my god. Resistance and solidarity. But during this imperial event, the myth of colonialism's inevitability finally crumbled to dust. The willingness of women like Coulibaly to tear down colonialism through building women's collective strength came from their own conditions of survival. Oh my fucking god. I feel like I should have been like highlighting since before, but look, we're here. But whatever. I'm like, this is hitting me. Okay, like, this is hitting me. They drew on a central leftist tenet: organize the largest possible numbers of people to become their own leaders. Didn't I just fucking say that? Didn't I just fucking say that you need people to be conscientious? You need to give people the revolutionary consciousness so that they can lead, so that they can know what to do, so that they can develop their own selves, their own revolutionary selves, to fulfill their own needs and create their own destinies. Coulibaly's anti-colonial internationalism stood too close to the women who were communists. Her vision for freedom from occupation in West Africa was too close to socialism. This proximity rendered her not simply invisible to our memories of mid-century women's activism, but impossible in the lens of anti-communism. African women could not knowingly choose time-honed collectivist methods or or redistributive ideals to demand a completely different world. Nor could African women join with women in Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean to lead the international women's movement in its vision and its practice. Writing a story of a global, mass based women's organization, one that sharpened the tools of internationalism to demand an end to patriarchy, to colonialism, to fascism, to racism, to war itself, is to wire the impossible, is to write the impossible. Okay, so when I titled my stream, I wanted to somehow like I just wanted to reference the title of the book. But it's like these women had truly developed a full-blown internationalist plan to legitimately take down colonialism. Like, or at the very least, realistically, whatever, a plan to diminish it, to fight back, to resist it, that included women across the entire fucking world, that included women of colonized and colonizer countries. And y'all tell me now why this fucking conference isn't fucking known. I literally got way more emotional than I thought I would get tonight. But the story that cannot have happened, but it did. And it did fucking happen. Ah, this is so fucking frustrating. Because there have been so many moments in history where things like this have happened. Where, well, not that many in the grand scheme of things, but and I hate it even more because, of course, it was a women's conference that developed all of these strategies. but because of the patriarchy, because of the sexism, because of the misogyny, because of men. I know it's not men, but I just needed another thing to list. Because of the colonialist systems that being mm, sorry. Because of the patriarchy, then this history is not taken seriously. Because of the patriarchy, this history was erased. Because of the patriarchy, so much, so much development of leftist, of communist, anti-imperialist strategies have been fucking erased. And I am sick. And I am sick that I always. Sorry. I am sick that I feel like I'm always mentioning the patriarchy, mentioning the sexism of it all, mentioning the colonialism of it all. And people do not fucking take me seriously. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to a wall. I'm like screaming, you need to pay attention to this. You need to pay attention because this shit is important. And it was fucking important. It was about to change the fucking world. They couldn't. And they still did so much for so many people. And they got erased from history. They got erased from history. And if people don't realize that this shit is important, that engaging with feminist theory, with queer theory, with anti-ableist, anti-racist theory is important, that we're going to keep having things like this happening. And who knows how much of those step backs people around the world will be able to afford to survive. Like, I think of the Black Panthers, right? Like, they built a fucking movement across the entire US. Across the US, okay? I know they were not in every single state, but you get the point. Like, they built a movement in 5 years, a movement that threatened the entire government. What were they doing? They were feeding children. They were feeding children. They were giving free education. Why? Because they organized. Because they were fucking aware. But they were black. So let's just rewrite history as the Black Panthers just being angry black people that hated white people and that were against the ideals of the good black person like Martin Luther King, who was against violence. And every single motherfucking time that I call out white streamers, white people in general, for this type of bullshit, they tell me that I'm in the wrong. And it's like, you have no fucking idea what you're doing. You have no fucking idea what you're doing. I'll be back on Monday to read chapter 1. If this was the introduction, I cannot even begin to imagine what chapter 1 is going to be like. Because chapter 1 is all about the conference, so that means that all our hopes are going to go up, knowing that. Holy shit, but yeah. Thank you, Redisby. I'll hug you too. But yeah, no. We're going to raid who? No one, cause I don't know. I don't think there's anyone to raid, but I don't think there's anyone to raid, and I don't know how to raid. So yeah. But yeah, I think tomorrow morning I am going to stream. Uh, I saw the TV Glow. Cause from what I've heard, it's like a trans allegory or something. So it has something about to do with queerness. So as soon as I wake up, I will. This wasn't even a chapter. This was just the introduction. Hello. Thank you, Robert Blind. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, tomorrow I'm going to wake up. I'm going to make an announcement to watch the movie. If you want to join the Discord. The description, the link is in the description. So yeah. Yeah, have a good night, everyone. I love you all. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I know that streaming on YouTube is like, but I already sent the appeal. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared of the appeal. I want I want the appeal to go through. So, knock on wood, it goes through. But yeah, but either way, I appreciate you all three for sticking by. Thank you for all the lurkers and all the people who have been here throughout the entire stream. I appreciate you all. I love you all. See you tomorrow in the Discord if you want to join and watch the movie. And if not, see you on Monday where I'll continue streaming. So, yeah. Bye. Yes, the PDF is in the Discord. I pinned it on in resources. But yeah. Yeah. Bye.